It doesn't matter who you are. Disney is a part of almost every American's life. You watched the movies as a child, you got toys in your kids' meals, and maybe you've been to the theme parks based on the franchise. Whichever of these things you may or may not have done, most likely Disney was a part of your childhood. Disney is one of the 5 major media corporations that own almost all of the media we see, and because of this, most children have their imagination and their play altered by Disney movies and products. Also, most children learn lessons, both intended and unintended, and positive and negative, from Disney movies. The negative lessons these children learn from these movies can affect how a child behaves and feels, and are often a bigger problem than most people realize.
When you have that kind of power, when you're essentially becoming a dominant storyteller for children globally, we have to begin to ask very serious questions about what kind of stories are being told here. Are these the stories we really want our children to hear? Would we like to ask children to hear other kinds of stories? And if we don't ask those kinds of questions, then essentially we're allowing Disney to shape our children's imaginations.
Encoded in media images are ideologies about how we think about the world, belief systems, constructions of reality, and we develop our notions of reality from the cultural mechanisms around us. And one of the most important cultural institutions that we have today is indeed the media. It gives us a whole array of images, of stereotypes, of belief systems about race, about class, about gender.
Probably one of the most well-known issues with Disney is the portrayals of racial stereotypes. This can be seen most commonly in movies where animals are the main characters. In these movies, non-white races are often portrayed as an inferior species.
An obvious case is The Lion King, in which lions are the main protagonists. They are portrayed as kind and fair and look true to real life. The hyenas, though, are portrayed as evil. They speak with an inner-city slang and at times even speak Spanish. The animals themselves are portrayed with black fur, even though they are actually close to lions in color.
I thought things were bad under Mufasa.
What did you say?
I said I said, ¿Qué pasa?
Good.
When non-white races are portrayed in movies, there is often only 1 or 2 of them, and even though they are not the bad guys, they often get into serious trouble or cause trouble for the protagonist. In Lady and the Tramp, the Siamese cats, with stereotypical accents, buck teeth, and slanted eyes, cause trouble all throughout the house. They break things and try to harm the other pets and even the baby.
Plenty milk for you, and also some for me.
Even in movies where humans are the main focus, non-white races are often still portrayed as animals or not portrayed at all. In the movie Tarzan, which is set in Africa, there are no African Americans present.
Kids in Africa see it. They see a white man in Africa who's superior, swinging from trees, and they see no Africans. And they see gorillas being the ones they relate to.
When children see these movies and see non-white races portrayed a certain way, they start to believe that these races are like their caricatures in the movies. This can cause the beginning of racial stereotyping and prejudice in the viewer.
Another group of major negative lessons that Disney movies teach are lessons on gender roles. The most easily noticeable examples are the oldest princesses. For example, Snow White, Aurora from Sleeping Beauty, and Cinderella. In all these cases, the princesses wait for a prince to come and save them. Also, in 2 of the cases, the princess lies dormant in a coma-like state waiting to be rescued. This sets a bad example for little girls that they cannot do things for themselves and that they need someone, preferably a male, to come and rescue them.
One of the themes seen repeatedly in Disney's movies is that however strong or powerful a female character may be, she still needs to be rescued by a male. In the world of Disney, females not only get into trouble easily, they also lack the ability to save their own lives. This is true even of Disney's films of the 80s and 90s.
In movies where the princesses are strong and independent, they sometimes set bad examples in other ways. Belle from Beauty and the Beast is an example of a strong princess that goes against Disney's typical princess standards. She is smart and does not fall for the villain Gaston as all the other women in her village do. Though once she is in the castle with the Beast, she starts setting a different example. She stays in the castle with the Beast against her will, and stays even as he becomes violent and threatened.
The abuse is horrific. He screams at her. He imprisons her. He throws her father out the door and rips her family away from her. And this is a movie that is saying to our children, overlook the abuse, overlook the violence. There's a tender prince lurking within, and it's your job to kiss that prince and bring it out, or to kiss that beast and bring the prince out. That's a dangerous message.
Finally, we have Jasmine from the movie Aladdin. She sets an example that is probably just as dangerous as the one that Belle sets. When Aladdin is trying to sneak into the castle, she distracts the villain, Jafar, by seducing him. She pretends to be in love with him and even kisses him.
I never realized how incredibly handsome you are.
This I find very dangerous because you have, again, it gives young girls the idea that that is the way that you get what you want. You use your body to manipulate people into, and specifically men, into to get what it is that you want.
These are just a few of the negative and sometimes dangerous messages that can appear in Disney movies, though there is a question of why they're there. So who's to blame for these negative messages in these movies? The truth of the matter is that these messages are indeed there, and children are learning them. If they're put there on purpose or not may be hard to find out.
I've worked in the media, and often I was surprised, sometimes very intelligent, mostly white writers, college graduates, held stereotypes about a lot of people and would write, when they wrote them into stories,
This quote may suggest that some of the negative lessons placed in these movies are not placed there on purpose, but out of ignorance. Though, does it really matter if they're put there on purpose or on accident? So the blame is ignorance and stereotyping. Though what is more important than placing blame is recognizing and ridding ourselves and children of these negative lessons.
If you're a parent or have younger relatives, you can talk to your children or relatives about what they are learning from Disney movies. You can have a discussion with them about what they have learned that is right and what they have learned that is wrong. A discussion with an adult about what is true and what is not will help a child to distinguish between what they see in movies and what is actually fact.
If as a parent you do not want your children to see these movies at all, you can find other alternatives for them to watch. You can also screen movies before showing them to your children to ensure that you keep negative lessons away from your children. If you're still looking for a princess movie to show your children, you can show them the newest princess movies such as Tangled or Brave.
Though not everyone is a parent or has a young child in their life. If you're not a parent, whether you plan to become one or not, it is important to keep in mind the negative lessons that these movies teach, so that we can always strive to keep the line between stereotypes and reality. It is sometimes easy to forget that most of what we see in movies is not true in reality. There are a few options of actions available to both those who have young children in their life and those who don't. Though, what do these actions cost us? If you're discussing reality with a child or with yourself, the only thing that these negative lessons will cost you is time. Time is required to discuss a movie with your child, your relative, or with yourself. It takes time to screen movies for negative messages. It also takes time to make a distinction between fact and fiction. So whether or not you've noticed these negative lessons before, it is important to keep them in mind in the future. Overall, it's not to say that Disney movies and products should be avoided. In fact, most people, even those who point these negative lessons out in Disney movies, still enjoy them.
The important thing, though, is to keep the truth of the real world and the truth of media separated. After all, no one would enjoy being stereotyped based on a movie. So, in the future, it's important to watch for these negative lessons and not let them affect how we treat people. After all, Disney is one of the 5 major media corporations, so it affects pretty much everyone's lives.